Looking for these better days.
It is Tuesday, April 28th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. Could Denver be on the verge of history? The Orlando Magic might be. Plus, we'll update the action on the ice and in Major League Baseball as well. Mackenzie Rivers joins me on this episode of Better Day, presented by FanDuel. And Mac, we start in the NBA playoffs, where the number one seed in the Eastern Conference is on the brink of elimination after the Orlando Magic defeat the Pistons 94-88 last night to take a 3-1 series lead. Good call by you, thinking this game was going to go well under the posted total. I bought in, Mackenzie. I bought into the Scott Foster extender theory. I bought into the Pistons bouncing back. I bought into all the trends that said the Pistons were the right side of this game. There was even numbers that were floated out there across the interwebs that I saw about number one seeds in their when they're trailing in a series, 11-3 straight up and 10-4 ATS in the last 14 first-round games. So that was leaning me towards the Detroit Pistons. I went ahead and I laid the juice on the money line. Not to be the case. What has gone wrong for Detroit in this series?
It's a condemnation on three fronts. And it's not a condemnation on Cade Cunningham, who had a pretty bad game for a star player, but it's an uphill battle. This is a condemnation on the Eastern Conference, on JB Bickerstaff, because this is going to be not one, but two massive collapses in the Eastern Conference after his, I think, number 2 seed Cavs bowed out early one year. So coach of the year to fired to maybe coach of the year and fired again. That's the way it goes in the NBA. And this is more than anything a condemnation on the regular season of the NBA, because I should have seen this coming. The coma theory in the NBA is stronger than ever. If you just got into a coma in September, you might be the best NBA handicapper in the world right now. Because on paper, you look at these lineups: Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner versus Cade Cunningham and Durant, and pick your third star. It's not that much of a colossive talent gap. It was a team that had better momentum, that cared more or was more cohesive or healthier, all of the above, and got 60 wins. But that doesn't mean, like it used to, that they're 10 points better than a team with 45 wins. It doesn't translate like that anymore. I think the Magic are almost as good. And I think now, they just got to not lose 3 straight. And I think they'll probably do it.
It's interesting. And especially in a year where we had so many tanking teams, right? If you just wanted to look at how teams did against winning opponents, right? So you want to see how they did against opponents. Let's call it like a 600 win percentage, right? Those would be like the, elite, I guess would you call them elite teams? A 600 winning percentage?
Yeah, they're the contenders. They're the challengers anyway.
Okay. All right, sure. So the Detroit Pistons this year against those teams, Mackenzie, 10-13 against the spread.
Just another one of those teams. Yeah, pretty good team.
10-13 against the spread. Meanwhile, the Orlando Magic in those games, let's see how the Magic did. The Orlando
I'd be surprised
Magic,
if it was good.
15-13 ATS.
Better than the Detroit Pistons, better than most. That's pretty good.
Better than the Pistons. The best team, by the way.
So the difference was the Magic didn't get up against the Wizards, and I was going to say the Hornets, but they're pretty good this year. And just teams like that, which is why there should be a 20-team or a 16-team league and a 16-team sub-league, and we'll talk about it in the summer.
Well, I mean, that was my idea, the NBA and the ABA. I mean,
it's the right idea.
It's the best idea ever. Like I for those of you who are just tuning in, give me a minute, give me 2 minutes here to talk about how Scott Seidenberg for NBA commissioner completely saves the league. First off, you add 2 teams in Seattle and Vegas. Now we have 32 teams in the NBA. We split the NBA into 2 16-team leagues. There's the NBA, which plays for the NBA championship, all that stuff. And the second league is the ABA. It's just a little less important, but it's still a competitive basketball league with all your favorite players and favorite arenas. The arenas will still sell out. People will go watch the games. And then you bring back the iconic name of the ABA. The NBA and ABA do not play each other in their regular seasons. However, they do play each other in the NBA Cup. This is what makes the
Right.
NBA Cup
It makes it
exciting.
special and different because
Yes.
ABA teams will win some years. It'll be like, wow,
Yes.
LaMelo Ball dropped 50.
Great. And then each league has their own playoffs and their own champions. And no, we are not putting the champions against each other. They're two separate leagues with two separate champions, two separate awards markets. Think about all the things you can bet on in the futures market, right? Awards, everything. And then guess what? It's a 16-team league. The top 8 make the playoffs, the bottom 8 don't. The teams that don't make the playoffs in the NBA, they're in the ABA next year. The 8 teams that make the playoffs in the ABA are in the NBA next year. And you're constantly switching. And guess what? We just solved All-Star Weekend because now we have the NBA All-Stars play against the ABA All-Stars. I mean, I'm the NBA commissioner, Mackenzie. Just hire me. Vote for me now.
It dropped the mic. It's really accurate. It's really accurate because it's not two leagues the way that like the Canadian Football League and the NFL are. Like you're saying, there'd be 8 teams switching every year. It would always be exciting. And if you were good, like the Spurs in the 2000s or something, you'd be like, wow, 20 years in a row in the NBA. And it would mean something.
And it changes every year, so everyone can. Oh well, we didn't get to play for an NBA title this year. Guess what? You won. You made it to the.
The Bulls
ABA
have never
playoffs.
played for an NBA title since 1999.
Exactly.
And Elton Brand was the Rookie of the Year.
Exactly. And guess what? If you just make the ABA playoffs, you don't even have to make it to the championship or win the championship. You're automatically in the NBA next year. So now everyone gets to see their stars every single year. It's just. And the NBA Cup too, it just means more.
The only thing I wonder if there can't be some regular season games that are interleague games.
I don't want it. No.
It does kind of ruin things. It does kind of like say like this is the night off. Yeah, you might be right.
And by the way,
obviously preseason exhibitions are playing in China, all that stuff.
Yes, exactly. Oh, and by the way, we're shortening the season from 82 to 66.
It would happen naturally with the amount of really meaningful games there would be in the NBA Cup and the NBA and ABA playoffs.
I love it. I fixed the NBA. All right. Also, last night, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they advanced. They finished a sweep of the Phoenix Suns, 131 to 122. But Mackenzie, they do not cover last night. That was a trend that you had looked at. You thought that the teams would roll over and die. They were 11.5-point favorites, and they do not cover, only winning by 9.
Everything has to be taken in the modern context. Winning by 9 is usually a cover on the road for any team in the playoffs historically. So they didn't get it here. Maybe the over was the play. It kind of fits with the idea that the Suns weren't thinking about, the rest of the series. They were just having fun out there. So maybe in these spots, over would make more sense.
The Nuggets avoid elimination, Mackenzie, beating the Timberwolves 125 to 113, a win and a cover for Denver. They closed as 12.5-point favorites, and that made sense. Obviously, no Anthony Edwards, but also the incredible bounce back situation with trying to avoid the elimination on home court and with the great home court advantage they have. And then we always see, with these teams where if a player gets hurt, they rally right away. But then when they start the game fresh without that player, it's a little bit different. So Denver jumped out to a 34-29 lead at the end of the first quarter. And we gave out a best bet on this game last night, which was Nikola Jokic to go over his assist prop, which was 9.5. And it was interesting because it was the same bet essentially as the triple-double, right? Like you could have had like the pretty similar odds. It was like a 1 or 2 cent difference. But I wanted to just isolate the assists. Now, he wound up having a triple-double, 27 points, 16 assists, and 12 rebounds. Jokic had 10 assists in the first half, so this was a rocking chair winner for us. But I thought that you'd get a motivated Jokic after he obviously took exception to McDaniels at the end of that last game, and he wanted to fight him. But I also figured he's not 100%. Right? His efficiency has not been great. He was 9 of 15 last night, which was better, but also 15 shots, not 22 shots, right? And he was more of a facilitator on offense. And I felt that that's what we were going to see after his poor performances in the past couple of games, really trying to be a team-first player. And that's what we saw from Jokic last night. Now that Denver has this win, it is a 3-2 series lead for Minnesota. Does Denver have what it takes to win the next 2 games?
The answer is yes, although I wouldn't put it like that. I would have said the Timberwolves don't have what it takes to win a game in the NBA playoffs versus a team, a core unit that's a championship contender and has won a championship. You might say, oh man, they just got to win 1 out of 3. Game 5 was over now. Game 7, they're not going to win a Game 7 on the road without a good player. I mean, without a top 50 player. It's just
Mhm.
not going to happen. So they really have one chance, and I don't think I don't think the Nuggets lose a game 6. Like you mentioned, and it's well said, it's completely different for a guy like Donsumo to to come in after being scouted as the starter,
Mhm.
try to get 20 shots up. He ends up with 17 points. I looked this up. One time this season, he played 37 minutes. He scored 17 points, 6 for 15 shooting. Last year, he didn't play 38 minutes at all. It's just a completely different muscle memory. A lot of guys could score 20 points per game if they're given 35 minutes and 20 shots a game. However, you got to do that. You got to actually have that muscle memory before you start questioning yourself. Ends up with 4 assists as a starting guard, not enough. I don't think they can keep pace with this Nuggets team. I mean, they're if it's close at the end, who are they going to go to? I don't think
Yep.
they have the answer to that.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And to that point, we talked about the series odds prior to this game. Minnesota had a 3 games to 1 series lead, and they were only about minus 150 to win the series. Now that Minnesota is up 3-2, keep in mind, all they got to do is win 1 game out of the next 2, and they will win this series. Up on FanDuel right now, Mackenzie, the Denver Nuggets are minus 154 to win this series.
See, that's insane because when I texted the Telegram group, it wasn't an official pick for anyone watching, but when I texted the Telegram group, the Nuggets are going to win this series. This game's over. They were minus 110 as 15-point favorites at home in third quarter, so that was the time to jump in. I definitely think they're going to win.
Nuggets minus 6.5.
Or actually plus 140
Yeah.
before the game
Yes,
was
that's
probably
true.
the time to jump in.
Nuggets minus 6.5 in Thursday's game number 6.
Well, obviously, I like Nuggets money line.
Yeah.
But it could be pretty close. I mean, this is their chance to play on and have Anthony Edwards come back. Maybe.
All right, let's take a look at the games for tonight in the association. All of these odds courtesy of our friends over at FanDuel. The 76ers are at the Celtics, where Boston will look to finish off the series. Celtics are 11.5-point favorites, total of 214.5. Mac, 2 questions. Is this series over tonight? And does Boston cover?
Yes and no. I think the Sixers cover here. The Celtics historically much better on the road. They kind of play with their food a little bit at home. Crowd gets restless, and the total is much lower than it has been in Celtics games. So 11.5 is still a huge number. I don't think the Celtics are that motivated to cover here.
Elsewhere in the Eastern Conference, the Knicks host the Atlanta Hawks. This series is tied at 2 games apiece, although we have made the argument and we can continue to make the argument that the Knicks really could have finished off a 4-game sweep
Sure.
of the Atlanta Hawks. Tonight's spread up on FanDuel right now, Mackenzie, Knicks minus 6.5, total of 213. That is essentially the same spread that we saw in games 1 and 2 of this series at Madison Square Garden. Maybe it's a half a point adjustment because I think the Knicks closed as like 6-point favorites instead of 6.5-point favorites. But I don't get it. Just like I didn't get the line in game number 2, I don't get the line here. Like, am I a sucker for wanting to lay the points here with the Knicks?
I don't think so. It's important to note that which half point that was shaded, and that's from 6 in game 1 or 5.5. I think it opened to now 6.5. The market agrees with us that the Knicks have played much better in this series. And the question is, who makes the judgments? Who does better? Just later in the series, and I think that's usually the better team. And I think the Knicks have proven to be the better team. Like you said, 2 bounces go here and there. They could have swept this in 4.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You're right. The adjustment is not in favor of the zigzag, which would be going on the Hawks losing that game. It's actually in favor of the Knicks, who won that game. So, yeah, I like laying it with the Knicks here tonight. And then finally, the Blazers are at the Spurs, where San Antonio will look to finish off the series. And I think they do here tonight, Mackenzie. San Antonio is a 12.5-point favorite. That second half the other day on Sunday, where the Spurs outscored the Blazers, what was it, 73 to 35? That was the end of the series. Like, I do not see the Portland Trailblazers picking themselves up off the mat after that embarrassing of a display on their home floor, by the way, I think they are ready to call it a season.
Tend to agree. This is a gentleman's sweep written all over it. Spurs have a lot of 15 Warriors vibes. I feel like they do not mind blowing teams out and having fun out there.
Yep. Current futures odds, if you're looking at FanDuel right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder minus 120 to win the NBA Finals. I think the
What are the
Spurs,
what are the Spurs? What are the Spurs?
I was
That's the
about to say,
question.
Mackenzie, plus 550 on the Spurs.
Mm.
I think it's worth a shot. Now, you can certainly just wait and see what you get when they face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. But you're right. You talked about this team starting to show that the moment's not too big for them, being in the first playoffs in forever, and Wemby being in the playoffs for the first time. This team, that second half was so impressive. I mean, I can't let that go. Down 17 at the half, and you come back and win the game convincingly. Like,
38-point halves don't happen that often against good teams like the
yeah.
Blazers. Plus 38 in a second half on the road. Yes, that definitely moved the needle for me. And I think
hmm
I thought at that time, like, okay, I could see this team beating the Thunder. That said, I don't think I think the odds are good now. I would take a flyer at plus 550, but I think they will be playing the Nuggets, and I don't think that is. I think that it might be a fun series back and forth. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion.
Well, what's also interesting is that Victor Wembanyama, like there's the Finals MVP market is already listed, Mackenzie, and up on FanDuel, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is minus 105 to win the NBA Finals MVP. Which is a little bit shorter than or a little bit longer,
Yeah,
I should
just
say,
barely. Wow. Yeah,
than the Thunder to win the title. Victor Wembanyama is exactly the odds for the Spurs to win the title. He has plus 550 to win the Finals MVP. They're
I'd
basically
say
saying that if the Spurs win the Finals, there's nobody else that would win the MVP.
I think that's fair. De'Aaron Fox was the best player in their last game. He was
hmm
magnificent, but come on. 7 blocks and 4 steals, and you're the second best player. It doesn't happen too often. I'll say this. There is a chance that Wemby gets hurt after game 3 and somehow Fox gets it. I think there is at least an equal chance that the Spurs somehow lose the championship and Victor Wembanyama averages a quadruple double and they give him the trophy anyway. So I would say plus 550 in line with the Spurs title odds makes total sense.
Okay, can I give you my futures bet right now on the NBA Finals MVP?
Shoot.
Jason Tatum at plus 900.
Ooh, what are the Celtics? Yeah, plus
This,
4-7. You're getting double odds. Yeah, I don't think there's a 50-50. I mean, I said that the last time they were in the championship.
so did I,
I
and I
think he
lost
I
that.
think he's especially now with the storyline and he's
Yes,
been playing like the best player. I think
yes.
it's at least 60-40, 70-30.
See, that's the thing. It's the storyline. It's the redemption story. It's the fact that he should have won Finals MVP over his
Yeah.
teammate Jalen
He
Brown
averaged
when
like
they
a
won.
30-point triple double. Yeah, or no, he didn't average a 30-point triple double. That's wrong. He averaged like 23 points. But he had the most points, rebounds, assists, and steals or something on the
Yeah.
team
Yep.
in a championship
Yep.
run and didn't get the trophy.
Because Jalen Brown hit the three.
Because Jalen
So-
Brown, because he's a dog.
yeah. I think that because he didn't win it last time and he should have, and because of the redemption story coming back from the Achilles tear, like it's a storybook ending. If the Celtics win the NBA title this year, Jason Tatum's your MVP. Rather than bet the Celtics at plus 450, give me Tatum at plus 900 or so. I'm on it.
Yeah, I like that bet. It's gonna be Celtics and Spurs or Thunder. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have plenty of time to have some other Finals MVPs in your portfolio.
Well, Mackenzie, the other story in the NBA that came out yesterday, the Rookie of the Year award was announced. Cooper Flagg edged out Con Knippel for Rookie of the Year honors in one of the tightest races in Rookie of the Year voting history. He beat him by 26 points, Mackenzie. And I know I'm probably wrong on this, but you will not be able to convince me otherwise. The fact that the voting was delayed because Luka
Oh,
Doncic and
100%.
Cade Cunningham had to appeal the eligibility rules, and therefore voters got to watch Con Knippel absolutely disappear in the play-in game. I think that swayed voters that didn't submit their votes and they voted for Cooper Flagg because if it was close between those two, which obviously it was, this is one of the tightest races in history. The fact that you had one extra game to see Knippel just completely bomb. Meanwhile, your lasting impression of Cooper Flagg was the final week of the season where he's scoring 50, 45, 40, right? I think that swayed voters at the end.
I think it's a travesty. I blame Bill Simmons personally. I blame everyone that said publicly, oh, I watched the play-in game, and how are we going to remember that? It doesn't matter how you remember the season. The season itself matters. The actual performance of the players. Con Knipple and the Hornets improved by what, like 20 something games? It's a shame. And the fact that publicly he would say, "Oh, I don't watch the regular season. I just follow the headlines, and that's what matters to me." It's a shame.
It's a damn shame because the Hornets had a 25 win improvement from last season. And one of the big factors was Con Knipple. Meanwhile, Cooper Flagg missed a ton of games, and Dallas went 26 and 56 this year. Come on, man. Like, I get it. He put up big numbers at the end of the season when the opponents were tanking, right? So he had, yes, all right, youngest player in history to score 50 points, 45 points, 40 points. Like, okay, cool. Guess what? It's like LeBron James setting records for becoming the oldest player to do something. If you're in the league at 20 years old, you're going to become the youngest, or 19, you're going to become the youngest player to do things. If you're in the league at 43, you're going to become the oldest player to do things. That's not impressive to me, Mackenzie.
Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $250 in bonus bets just for getting started. And when every possession matters in the playoffs, FanDuel makes it easy to get closer to the action. From player props and your favorite stars to all the tools you need to back them up, FanDuel puts player research right at your fingertips, so you can check stats, trends, and matchups all in one place and make your picks with confidence. It's everything you need all in one app. So don't miss your shot. Head to FanDuel.com/Believe. That's BLEAV to get started. FanDuel, play your game. 21 plus, select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus, DC, Kentucky, Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org and call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867 in Louisiana.
All right, from the NBA playoffs to the Stanley Cup playoffs we go, where the Pittsburgh Penguins avoided elimination for the second consecutive game, defeating the Flyers 3-2. So 3-0 comebacks, Mackenzie, in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We talked about this before. It's more likely than what has happened in the NBA, obviously, and in Major League Baseball. Like, there have been 4 successful 3-0 comebacks in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Most recently, the 2014 Western Conference quarterfinals, the Kings came back against the Sharks. There have also been several series that have just been forced a Game 7, and most famously and recently, the 2024 Stanley Cup Final, where the Oilers came back from 3-0 to force a Game 7 only to lose to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, McDavid couldn't get it done.
Yeah, so it's not crazy to see that the Penguins won game number 4 and avoided elimination. They return home, they win game 5, and now it is a 3-2 series, with the series shifting to Philadelphia for game number 6 coming up tomorrow, where it's a very close spread. Like, right now,
is this a big rivalry? Is this like, I mean,
yeah,
this is interstate.
Yeah, Keystone State rivalry, I guess.
Right.
Philadelphia minus 115 on home ice tomorrow night. Now,
I feel like this should be a bigger deal.
Here's the odds to win the series. Now that it's 3-2, it is Flyers minus 320 and Penguins plus 255. Now, the question you always have to ask yourself is, do you get better on the money line rollover than you would at plus 255? Because plus 255 is doing a 2-leg parlay of game 6 and game 7. But if we just take the odds in game number 5, which is Penguins minus 104, okay? $100 wager on Penguins minus 104. Your return is 196 or so, right?
All right.
Now they're probably minus, if they've won 3 straight and now they're home in game 7, at minimum, they're minus 130 favorites.
What were they in game 1?
In
Do you
game
remember?
number one, this is why you do what you do, Mackenzie, because you ask the tough questions. Let's see. In game number, minus 154.
Okay. So maybe there's a slight upgrade for the Flyers, but maybe not. Maybe they're going to be minus
Actually,
150 again.
excuse me. Game number one, they were minus 148. They were minus 154 in game number two after losing.
Oh,
So
okay, the bounce back.
yes. So okay, so let's call it. I'd say let's be conservative and say minus 130.
All
Okay.
right.
So we take our 196, and that's going to win us 150, right? So your 150 plus your 196, right? That's going to make 346 minus your initial $100 investment is 246. That is plus 246 odds. So,
And it's plus 250.
yes.
Wow. So that's, I mean, wow. Yeah.
That's
Maybe this is the rare time where it's not better to do the
but
mechanical parlay.
but Mac, that's me assuming that they're minus 130. If they're anything higher than minus 130, you're better off taking the plus 255. If they're
Right.
anything lower than minus 130, you're better off doing the money line rollover. So
Right.
this is me just hypothetically making the odds for a game 7. And you know something? The fact that I came pretty darn close to the plus 250 makes me think that, like, me as an NHL odds maker, I'm pretty good because I set the
But
line.
if you're the commissioner of the NBA, they're not going to allow you to
You're right,
also
I
bet
can't.
hockey.
You're right. If I'm the commissioner of the NBA, I can't also be the NHL head odds maker. So
Yeah.
that's
It's tough
that is a
choice.
bit of a conundrum. Okay. Elsewhere last night, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Utah Mammoth skated into overtime, tied at 4, where the Vegas Golden Knights got the 5-4 victory to even up their series at
Let's
2
go.
games apiece. On your schedule for tonight, the Buffalo Sabres will look to close out the Boston Bruins in Buffalo on their home ice. Buffalo minus 170 favorites. The Wild are at the Stars with that series tied at 2 games apiece. Dallas, a minus 130 favorite on home ice. And the Anaheim Ducks, fresh off their controversial win in overtime, which, by the way, my Twitter mentions are still blowing up after that. They have a 3-1 series lead over the Oilers. Edmonton tonight on home ice, minus 175. This is a situation that they have never faced under Chris Knobloch as their head coach. Because remember, I gave the stat yesterday that under Chris Knobloch, the Oilers were a perfect 6-0 when trailing 2-1 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So they have always evened up their series. But here's another incredible stat here. If you just look, now it didn't work out, obviously, the last game, but this is game number 5, okay? Since Chris Knobloch took over in 2023, in the Edmonton Oilers, in game number 5 or later, okay? In game number 5 or later, the Edmonton Oilers, Mackenzie, give me a record. What do you think?
7-0.
11-4 straight up. Game number 5 or later, they are 11-4.
It's not bad.
That's not bad. It's how you win series. That's how you win series is winning in game. Now, if you just looked at game 4 or later, they were 19-5. So that's how rare that loss was in overtime to the Anaheim Ducks. Your current odds to win the Stanley Cup, your favorite is the Colorado Avalanche at plus 230. They've already advanced. Second favorite, the Carolina Hurricanes at plus 300. Guess what? They've already advanced. Buffalo is still plus 1,200 to win the Stanley Cup. That is your value play right now. Buffalo can close out their series against the Bruins tonight. I think they do on home ice. And then we're looking at a really fun second round series between the Sabres and the winner of the Lightning and the Canadiens, which, by the way, that series is tied at 2 games apiece and has the makings of a 7-game series. So if Buffalo wins tonight, they're going to have plenty of rest to go up against either a Lightning or Canadiens team coming off of a 7-game series, maybe, right? And then we're talking about Buffalo getting by them and having to face, either the Hurricanes or maybe Penguins or Flyers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Plus 1,200 for the Buffalo Sabres. That's my bet to win the Stanley Cup right now, Mackenzie.
Are you worried about the 3-1? Are you worried about round 1 at all? Or is that just penciled in?
No, Boston looked so bad in that game. Jeremy Swayman looked bad. I don't want to call it infighting, but bad vibes all around there in Boston. And the arena is going to be so electric tonight with that fan base dying for a win for the first time in the playoffs in forever. I can't see Buffalo losing tonight. I can't. And because it's an elimination game, look for the puck line, play the alternate puck lines as well. You could get multiple empty net goals here tonight.
In round 2, it's looking like the Canadiens are going to be the only Canadian team left.
If they advance, yep.
I feel like that's an emotional hedge a little bit. If you lose your Sabres bet, Canada goes through.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'd be on the Canadiens. Yeah, they're a fun team.
All
we
right.
like them.
All
We
right,
like
cool.
betting them.
All
We
right.
like betting their props. It's always fun.
It'd be fun to have them in the conference finals.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. Major League Baseball, last night you had the Padres returning home from Mexico City. We talked about how 2 overs the last time teams came back from Mexico City to play a game with no rest, and Mackenzie last night flew over the total. 9-7, the Padres beat the Cubs. Shout out to our very own Jake Hassan, who gave out a home run prop yesterday on Moises Ballesteros, who hit a grand slam for the Cubbies in the top of the 3rd inning, a plus 730 cash for Jake Hassan. Great call by him there on Ballesteros. But if you went to betterday.com and you checked out our MLB Game Center, you would have seen Ballesteros as one of the top projections to go over his total bases and his hits plus runs plus RBIs. And if you played those 2 props, well, you cashed those, not at plus 730, but pretty good cashes if you're doing the player props with my favorite is the hits, runs, RBIs as opposed to the total bases. So MLB
Was that your Max Kellerman impression? Not at 730.
No.
It sounded like to a T. I mean, that's just that part of the world.
I feel like you have to add a little bit.
Not at plus 730.
A little bit more lisp though with Max.
I mean, I can't do accent.
With all due respect, it would be like, "Are you kidding me, BK? A little 730 is what he hit. No way, Brian. No way."
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then Brian would be like, I don't know, Max, on the MLB network, we have this guy. No, that was a bad Brian Kenny. But let's talk boxing. Max is great. That was my first job in radio, was working for Max Kellerman. He used to be a rapper.
I learned that.
Yeah.
And he shaved his head, and he was probably pretty good.
He was. Spit some bars back in the day. All right, that'll wrap up this.
It's so much easier to freestyle off the dome, though. So that's what we do.
Yeah,
that's
it is. We're done spitting bars here on this episode of Better Day. As a reminder, make sure you head to our website, betterday.com. Check out all the tools and resources we have available for you, with new stuff coming as we continue to rock and roll and tweak things and add things that create a really great user experience for you guys. Tomorrow, Colby and Jake will be streaming the latest episode of their Off the Board podcast on the Better Day Twitter and YouTube page. So you want to make sure that you are following us there. And then a little bit later on this week, we will do a little Kentucky Derby preview to get ready for the Running of the Roses this Saturday at Churchill Downs. Be sure to follow us across all your social media channels. For Mackenzie Rivers, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.